Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Chalkbox Talk. We are in episode 2. My name is Juan Jimenez, head coach at Austin Elite Gymnastics. Today, we're at my home gym talking to a dear friend of mine, Marissa Mendoza, head coach at Reflex. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Marissa, like he said. I know Juan from, I don't know how many years now, like...
8 years, I think. 7, 8 years.
8, yeah. We worked together in Houston, and I know from a long time ago he said that he wanted this to happen, and we've been waiting, and finally it's here. And I actually did not imagine myself in this
years,
chair.
Right?
Yeah, I think you said it like 2-3 years ago that it was like, yeah, I'm starting this, and I was like, yeah, cool.
It's a slow burn.
But I never imagined like me being in it. Like, I was definitely excited to do it, but I'm always nervous in front of like camera and stuff. So, but I was like, what else could go wrong? It's just going to be a conversation. So hopefully it all goes well because.
Where do you coach? Tell everybody where you coach, where they can find you for any reason. Parents in Houston.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I coach at Reflex Gymnastics in Pearland. It's a little bit in the outskirts of Houston. It's a fairly small program right now. Well, it's been growing. Whenever I came to the gym, there was about maybe like 20 girls total. We're maybe around close to 50 now. So that's very exciting that the program is growing.
And we've competed in the same meets, the same sessions. Your girls look good.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got some, like, on a coaching level, I've always got, I kind of know the answers to some of these questions, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I think that people should know. But I think before we get into the nooks and crannies of like coaching styles and like what we do and what we don't do and things like that, we do have some professional history because we've worked together. How long did we work together?
For about 5 years.
We worked 5 years at Discover Gymnastics in Houston, Texas also. Houston is a very specific city. I have to tell people, I have to like preface it. I'm in Austin now. It's such a different city. It is a very, very unique place to work, Houston, for gymnastics. And I think Discover Gymnastics even more unique because of the type of worker that Carly likes to hire.
Yeah, for sure.
And the type of system that it is, and like how fast paced that gym is specifically because of just a lot of details. I don't want to get into like how that gym specifically works, but like, what has been the biggest takeaway for you having been a worker ant under or the head coach at the time, Castella?
Yeah.
What is the last name? Mihauk. Castella Mihauk. It was essentially a Romanian system. What is the biggest takeaway from that experience? Is there something that you've taken from that system, from our time working together, that you've taken
I think
to your programs?
I think I definitely still kind of look back into a lot of the things I learned there, because I could say that I started coaching at a very young age, and I did not start coaching there, but I definitely stepped out of where I was very quickly, knowing that I had a good opportunity there. And just knowing who worked there and like the different styles and the different type of coaching, and overall just working there was a lot of variety, I could say, of styles of coaching, and just a lot of people coming from different places, because not only did we have her as the head coach and having more of a Romanian system, but we had a lot of other styles with all the other coaches.
The Colombian coaches,
Russian coaches, Bulgarian coaches. I know, like Haifa being from Iraq, and like Jordan. And, you know, there was a lot of different styles. And I think at the end of the day, we all kind of came together in a way. But I feel like something that you and I had in common that was maybe that we weren't the type of coaches that were hired there all the time. Were definitely somebody that was already known, or they were somebody. They were some
sort of Olympic champion.
Right. And so I think that's something that we had in common, that we definitely did not come up the same way, but we were also very open and learning. And I mean, we were eager. We wanted to be just as good or even better. You know what I mean?
I remember. I mean, we were the underdogs. I definitely felt like an underdog type of feeling working there for at least the beginning amount of time. I don't know about you specifically, but I remember for me, I remember feeling like I was an underdog because I didn't even come from gymnastics.
Right.
It wasn't even like I was a gymnast before or I had coached before. Or it was just like brand new, clean slate. I did not know anything about that. It was all luck where I just like happened to work there. I just wanted like a part-time job, and I just all of a sudden kept on getting more and more responsibility. And then I had the opportunity once Michelle and Hong left. I had the opportunity. They gave me some responsibility to work with the team, and I was like, okay, well, let me just take it. And then like every year, it was like more responsibility, more. And I remember the pressure because under that system, under Costella's system, not like it was a bad system or anything, but just I remember like you have to deliver. There has to be some sort of results. You have to try to prove yourself, and then you go out into the competition setting, whether it's compulsory or whether it's optional. And Houston is such a cutthroat city when it comes to gymnastics. You'll lose kids left and right because
there's so many options around.
Because there's so many options, and because so you have to make sure that like you're on top of it. You have to plan ahead. It wasn't just I used to think that it was just like, oh, I'll just coach today, we'll see how it goes. Like, no, you have to like plan so much in advance, and I didn't know that until working there and asking questions,
like
and
being felt like you're being judged throughout your rotation. Like you knew you had to like make sure that everything was running smoothly because you knew somebody was going to come up to you and tell you something.
If you weren't doing it.
Yeah, but I definitely, or doing it their way also, because that's also something that's very hard with gymnastics coaches overall, is that I guess we can be a little bit controlling in the sense of like, that's not the way that I would do it. And so then it's not right, you know? So, but I definitely felt like an underdog 100%. I feel more because of my age starting there. I was definitely the youngest. And for a very long time, I was kind of just, you know, shadowing, helping, obviously learning. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. But then also working under Costella, which was hard because she was my coach too as a gymnast. And so for a very long time, I felt like, you know, you just kind of have that relationship like coach athlete, that once you get put in the, you know, coach to coach position, you still feel like you're not there yet, or you're just not as good enough. And so she definitely never really made me feel so much like that. You know, I think it was just something that was in my head that I kind of just needed to, you know, step back a little bit or something like that, or kind of obey everything that she wanted me to do at the time. Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a bad thing. I was just definitely the youngest, the newest, you know, the one that had the least experience, or one that, you know, just didn't come up as being a professional gymnast myself, or being a high level athlete or an Olympian, you know. So it definitely was hard at the beginning, but I feel like we were both so eager to learn and to, you know, give good results. And I feel like we did for a very long time.
I think there was a run that we had where you and I remember very distinctly, because the way that her system worked is that there always had to be a guy and a girl coach as partners, because that's their system. That's that I talked with Bray before about the Soviet Union system, but that's the system.
Yeah, it's like the girl coach can't coach bars and vaults. You have to be on beam.
And very old school mentality, but that's where we were. And I remember there was a run where we had some compulsory groups, which I think those girls right now are like at level 8 entering level 9 now.
Yeah.
And there was like a 2.5 year span where we were producing some compulsory groups that were like on fire.
Yeah, they were
like,
really good.
They were like, it was a very proud moment for me, because I remember thinking to myself like, oh, like I'm refining myself. These results are coming in, and then I'm proving myself to the other gyms that are worth their salt. When we would go to state and we would go to we would see like Kurt Thomas and Woga and Texas Dreams and all these gyms where, you know, there's Olympic champions there. And I didn't know the difference. I just thought like, man, they must be great, right? And I didn't know the ebbs and flows of gymnastics. I didn't know any of that, but I remember thinking to myself like, oh, like these are the moments where I've got to like try to get the best results as possible. But we had a run where you and I were like spearheading a good amount of compulsory groups that were kind of on fire, that were really great. And we also had, I think, 2 generations before we decided to stop it. We had 2 generations of tops athletes.
Yeah.
And
But I think what worked the most was really that we were both on the same page, and we would really talk about our plan and exactly what we wanted to do, and we both were on board with exactly what we wanted to do. So I think that's something that is very important at the end of the day, because you do find, or I have found myself in situations after being there where you kind of feel stuck in a way because you don't have that good working partner sometimes that is on the same page as you. You know, sometimes you get stuck with people that are just there to get a paycheck, or you're just there that aren't really, there for the kids, or there to, actually make something happen, but just, just there for a paycheck. So I think that is also something that was very important, because at the end of the day, it's really hard to make it happen all by yourself unless you have that one select group, which is really hard to find. It's really hard to have two also. And I mean, you got to be honest, you can't really do everything by yourself. So
yeah, the people that do it by themselves are people that negotiate in advance to the gym owner and say, like, I want 10 girls and I don't want anybody else
it's like
to.
I feel like it's the Russian way. I don't know.
It 100%.
But like, you see that very often in like gyms, like, I don't know, like Woga or something, where you see a little bit more of that Russian, because you'll go to competition and you're like, oh my God, why is there literally 3-4 girls, but like 4 or 5 different coaches?
Yeah.
And they're all like stretching separately, wearing the same Leo, but stretching separately. And you're like, they have their own coaching,
This is not an indictment on any of those on any of those gyms. It's just like,
I wish,
for real.
I wish, but I haven't had that luxury yet. So, yeah.
100%. It's. I'm now thinking about this. I wasn't planning on thinking of this, but I wasn't planning on talking about this. But now I'm that you're reminding me about the like trials and tribulations that you and I had to go through in that gym, the long nights, the long weeks, the long seasons, right. One of the things that I was always incredibly impressed by with you, and correct me if I'm wrong, this might have changed for you now, but one of the things that I was incredibly impressed with you is your beam work is spectacular. Especially on the compulsory side, getting all the foundation all the way up until like even through whenever you and I were coaching optionals together. Also, like, your beam work is phenomenal, and I distinctly remember at the very beginning you were like, I hate beam.
Yeah, that's
so
why I
much.
giggle now that you say that, because when I first came to the gym, which I was so excited about, I did not know that when I was being interviewed, I did not know that was going to be put in front of me, and I was told, we just need a beam coach. And I was like, crap. I hate coaching beam. And I just think I was so young still then. And funny, that was my best event as a gymnast, and I still hated it. Like, I was very good on beam, but I hated the event. And that's all they needed at Discover. So I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, I have no option now. I've quit the other place. So I guess I'm coaching beam, And so at the beginning, when I first came in to Discover, I know for about 4 months, I was really shadowing you, and I was helping with more vault and bars until they kind of put me in a place where it's like, okay, but now we need a beam coach, and we only need you on beam.
And you wanted to coach bars.
And I was like, but I'm getting the hang of this, and like, I'm doing really good on bars and vault, and I enjoy spotting, and it's like, no, you have to be on beam and like maybe floor, but more on beam. And then I was like, but why? Like, oh no, the guys will take care of vault and bars. And I was like,
and you know what's funny? I'm the same, but just the opposite. I hate bars. I hate coaching bars.
But you're there all the time.
And that's where I live. I live every single day on the bar. I'm full of chalk. Like, that is and the way, the thing that I describe it now, like, have you seen any of those like shows right now where like it's all the craze? Have you seen The Bear?
No.
The show The Bear, it's about like cooking and chefs and stuff.
No, I have. I've seen every cooking show, but that one apparently.
So do you know, it like in cooking shows, like reality TV cooking shows, like everybody talks about like dicing and like prepping and everything right there, right? And like chefs hate being like on the onion station because it's like it's just like tedious work every single time. That's what bars is for me. It's just like the same thing. No, and like you can't get. It's not like one day you can take a day off. It's like every single day you've got to do it. It's like cutting onions. It's like every single day.
But I don't
you've gotta
blame
do
you
it.
one bit, because I mean I've been on bars because I have to cover somebody like once every blue moon, and I'm like so sore the next day, and I'm like, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work at the end of the day. So I'm kind of grateful, and I could tell you that now. I will say I purposely put myself on beam a lot more, and I love beam. And then anytime that
So it changed for you.
Oh yeah. And that's just because I feel like I have it down very well, to the point where I feel like a lot of the times my kids just pretty much work by themselves, and I still get good results. But I feel like I have the system down to the T, and like I'm not trying to brag or anything. I don't know how, but I think it's just a matter of like repetition and just kind of getting the timing correctly throughout the year, and just like by this month I need to be doing this, and I kind of have that down. But I enjoy beam. That's my love.
For me, and this is not, if my gymnasts are watching this right now, I love you guys, but I still hate coaching bars because it's just so. And my gymnasts will they'll ask me, they're like, "Do you like coaching bars?" And I'm like, "Not really. Like, it's just a lot of tedious work. It's a lot of like monotony. It's a lot of like repetition, like small little things." And they're always like, "But you're so good at it." And I'm just like, hey, it's just like I would rather coach floor. I would love to coach floor, even from the dancing part all the way to the tumbling. And I'm like, nope, I live on bars.
Yeah.
And I think you should brag a little bit, to go back to your beam thing. Like, I think you should brag a little bit, because I remember how like tedious and like frustrating it was for you to be like, oh my God, I'm on beam. And it was like a real struggle at first.
I mean, it was like every rotation back to back to back. Like if I went in at 3 p.m., I was there till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So it was exhausting, definitely.
So walk me through that. If you had to create, I should have sent you this earlier so that you could think about it. But now on the fly, what is your method? Because there are great beam workers, beam coaches all around the state. There's gyms that get great beam, great results on beam. But because I've watched you directly, you have a sense of poise that you are trying to get through on the beam. You also have a progression, a methodology that you like to get through on the beam. But then you also have, and this is maybe more unique to you, maybe a couple other coaches, or a couple other systems, whatever the reality may be. You also have a rhythm to you, the way that you put together your beam work, and the rhythm that your gymnasts take while they're doing beam is, in some way unique, and it's super subtle. A lot of people will go and read the book, especially in compulsory. They'll like just read the book, and it has to go from this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing. Okay, let's do it. And it's very militaristic. It's very like just cut and dry. Just give it to me. Just like, you know what I mean? There isn't a flow and a rhythm to the thing, and they might still get some great scores, but there's something to be said about like the grace. Even in like low levels, even in level 2, 3, 4, like there's something about the grace and the rhythm of beam, and like you can just look at a routine sometimes and you're like, man, that was butter. Yeah. That was like smooth throughout the entire thing, and it had a flow and it had a rhythm. So I know that I don't know if you actively think about that, but I know that your results come off that way. Yeah. And you and I have had conversations about this, obviously, so I'm kind of like leading the question. But talk to me about your process on beam. What is the best way for you to start? What's your ideal situation? What do you think about when you're coaching beam?
I don't even know. I definitely don't have like I don't write down a program and follow it. I'm really bad about that. I think I just work from the top of my head a lot of the times. I definitely do try to plan a lot more for my older gymnasts now, but for my littles, I feel like as I kind of grow my gymnast from the bottom up, I think it's something that they learn from me from the get-go. But once I have kids that are older and they come to me later on, I feel like that's something that's really hard for me to take.
Because you have to reteach.
Right, because I have to reteach. So, but it's really good for my littles that have kind of came up with me since level 2 and up. I think, honestly, it's just how nitpicky I am about certain things. And then my kids in my high expectations and my kids knowing those expectations all the time, and I just do not let loose one bit, and they know that every single time they're on beam, my expectations are the same, and just because I know their potential. And I have, you always say, like, if I can get this one kid with knobby knees and unflexible feet on beam specifically, which is a lot harder for them to score higher, if I can get them to score better, then I think I kind of have this down. And I think I've had a couple of those kids that just don't have the prettiest lines, and that's what they're looking more on the artistry side when you're on the beam, to score much better, to score on the higher nines. And so I don't think I have something specifically. I think it's just how nitpicky I am, and I might be changing certain routines here and there, but it's just the in between is the most important for me. It's just like, I don't know, like I can give you an example. Like if the pose is to the side, I don't want them to go straight from there into the next pose. I want them to get themselves together, back again, and then keep going. And I think that sharpness and neatness in between everything, it's like everything in between the lines for me has to be very clean, very sharp.
I'm not sure a lot of coaches think about it that way.
Yeah,
they're like handstand, get off the handstand.
No.
Next thing, the leap, get off the leap, and then like make the fish pose, and then let's keep it going.
Yeah, and I think for me is all the details in between the skills, like going into the handstand, coming out of the handstand. It's not just like, oh, you made it, you didn't wobble, you just landed on the beam, but did you squeeze your knee? Did you point your toe? Were your arms straight by your ears? Obviously, all those things are important. They're deductions. They're on the book. But a lot of those people don't really care for those things. They kind of just go straight to the point. If you kind of look like the little doll on the book, then you're fine. You know what I mean? But I feel like that's what makes the difference, which I think that's another point of some type of frustration for me as well, because you do go to competitions, and I've gotten a lot of those comments about my routines that are like, oh my God, your artistry is so good and your girls look so good, but then yet you still have some kids that are probably not doing the same detail work, and still scoring higher. And it might, and you could also talk about the skills, not just the choreography.
Yeah, there's like neutral deductions and stuff, things like that.
But like my kids are doing good on their skills, good in their artistry, their dance, minimum wobbles, and then you have those kids that are, they're kind of just hitting everything how they need to, but there's no artistry work behind it, and then it's like, okay, that's still not being paid attention to. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, just do it, and then so I think that's another frustration of mine, that I'm like, I put so much emphasis and so much work into the artistry side of the sport that is also sometimes not being recognized. It's kind of still just being put aside, so
do you think that pays off when you get them to optionals though? Do you think it pays off a lot more whenever the routine has to be built instead of like learned?
I think it only depends on who's judging. Because
then you get to optionals, and this might be me just reaching, but then you get to optionals and you have a kid that's like really, really robotic like that, and they don't, in my opinion, at least from my, or maybe it shouldn't be my opinion, from my peripheral sight, eavesdropping, I don't think they score as well. I think a good optional beam worker has that sense of flow, has that sense of timing, has that sense of artistry, for lack of a better term, on beam more so. It's even more obvious because it just becomes like a stage. It's just like you're elevated, you're up there.
I think definitely, but I also feel like it all comes down to the choreography and what choreography you give them, or who's doing their choreography, because it's not like, I could say like all of my routines and all of my style of dancing might not fit everybody's dancing. And I do try my best to be as flexible as possible with everybody. And then I guess it just depends on the choreographer's background and, what is their style, But I feel like there's a lot of kids who have knobby knees or not a lot of flexibility, and they get put in a routine that just does not fit them well.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that just hurts the kid, where you could have given something. I think not too long ago, I had a kid that just moved to my gym, and she had a choreographer. I don't know who did her choreography, but she's just one of the kids that kind of like sickles her feet and bends her knees, and she had a lot of releves and a lot of pretty poses, but those pretty poses weren't really working on her. So I changed a lot of those to like passes and plies, where it still looked good.
But now you didn't have the accent of that line, not
But
being
now
like,
I'm not focusing on her sickled feet when she's doing her releve. Now I'm focusing on her dance and her moving through the routine without me having to like stop and like deduct, stop and deduct, stop and deduct. You know what I mean?
I think what you're speaking to right there is more so a point about the maturity of coaching. It's like when you start coaching, you want the results, and that's like.
Yeah.
That's what you prioritize. I need to get this result. I need to get this result. And I don't think compulsory does a good. I think you should start in compulsory because it's important for you to know the foundation, technique, and progress.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that me and you are very adamant about is that sometimes you're willing to risk certain things for, for future things,
right. Well, and we're also, and I think this might be unique to you and me also, is like we're also willing to say like, I think I was wrong about that. Especially at the beginning. Like at the beginning, there were some moments of frustration where I was like dead set. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then say like, I think I was wrong about that moment or about that thing. And I think what you're speaking to is realizing as a coach for you, especially in terms of artistry, composition, things like that, realizing that you're not just trying to make them look pretty, that what you're trying to do is give them the best movement to hold on to as many tenths as possible. Right. That is not a sentiment that every coach has. Some coaches are like, you need to be pretty.
Yeah, you need to look this certain way, this specific way, but you have to remember that even in life, everybody looks pretty in their own way. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
But that's maturity.
Yeah.
That's maturity as a coach, knowing that like, I have this kid, she looks like this, biomechanically she looks like this, she moves like this, her personality is like this. Yeah. How am I going to either accent that or make it to where it makes sense for her to have this kind of choreography or composition? That's maturity, because not a lot of people can do that. If you hear children, it's because there's children. So,
guilty.
But it's okay, we're in a gym. This is where they're supposed to play. I think that's maturity as a coach, and I don't think a lot of people start off that way. I think that even a lot of people end up at like high level gymnastics, and they're so. This would be a good segue, but they're so headstrong on like their way, and like they don't move from that post.
Yeah, but I guess it is the maturity, and I guess it's also like, but why not give everybody the experience they deserve? You know what I mean? Like I think this is something that I've learned from people that I've worked with before. It's only this way and it should only be this way, and it's kind of like me stepping back. And I don't know if this is like a Libra thing from me, and I just want balance overall over everybody. But like I want everybody and all my gymnasts to be successful in whatever way they can be, and so why not give them the options that will give them a little bit of a higher score, and not just for me and for my glory, but also for them and for them to have a good experience. At the end of the day, you'll have gymnasts that are done at level 8, level 7, level 6, wherever they're going to be done, but give them that good experience. No, don't be so rigid on, no, but it has to be just this way. So
in the last episode, I'm sure you caught some pieces of it. I talked to Bray, and she was talking about that there was a clip that was really popular on Instagram we're talking about coaches' egos. Yeah. And you just touched on something a little bit where you were saying it's not just for me. We've been around people that their entire self-worth as a coach was the result of these gymnasts.
Right.
And I mean, we've had conversations where we've been frustrated at the end of the night, and where we're just like,
yeah, because it impacted us.
Yeah, because it got in the way of our work. But then it also made us feel bad. Like these gymnasts are having to have the weight and the responsibility, and they don't even know it. But like for this person, for this coach, they have the weight and the responsibility of having to be good, or else this adult doesn't feel good about themselves. Right. So speak on that a little bit if you can, because you were saying like not just for me, but for the gymnast, for like what's the ultimate, what's the goal, what's the philosophy, something that is that a line for you that you won't cross? Like,
I feel like I've been put in a situation where it was very tough for me to leave a competition or leave practice knowing that my athlete could have done so much better or scored so much better if only I would have changed something about it, and not being able to do it because at the end of the day it just wasn't my place, or I just wasn't allowed to. And I think thankfully now that I am in the position that I'm able to make those decisions, I try to be much better than, those times. I don't know if you remember one time, we were at a H&I meet and we're on vault specifically.
Oh, I think I do remember whenever we were instructed specifically to do the souk. This was whenever they... This was whenever they switched the vaults, right? It was like the first year that they switched the vault to the timer vault.
They were doing, there was the first year, and the kids were doing...
And I had a couple kids that were doing Yurchenkos because I wanted them to flip Yurchenkos eventually.
No, I think it was
Or was it the opposite?
They were doing... We wanted them to do souks because they were just not like Yurchenko kids, right? Yeah, but it was like, no, they have to do Yurchenkos. Everybody does Yurchenkos. And I'm like...
So it was the opposite for sure.
Yeah, and I think we got to a point where it was like...
She's going to score better right now in the moment if she does this, and she's going to feel better about herself.
Right.
And we made them do the souk, and they scored better.
But they scored better, and it came back and bit us in the butt that same day because it was like... Oh, you guys did what? Y'all made decisions?
I think I got the call, and then on Monday, I was
out
like...
for the rest of the season. Like, I didn't get to show up to any more meets that season. It was crazy, but I was like, whatever, it was worth it. Like, the kid did well. The kid did well.
That day.
The kid left happy. They knew they had the possibility on doing it. It was just like, optionals has options. Let's be flexible, and I think me and you were definitely being rebels then, but we were like... We just think that was the best decision, which it was another tough thing for us because it was like, your kids best. You work with them every single day. You're the one that invests every single minute of that practice in them. And
outside of practice.
Yeah.
Like at night thinking of man, how is this routine going to go? What should I do? What drill should I do if she's not understanding this drill?
Yeah, you literally go home and just stress about it.
I know. There's that quote that goes around on Instagram all the time that's like, if you follow the sports pages, it's like there are adults that think about that lose sleep thinking about your kid's success.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is 100% true because you're just sitting there like Instagram feed is nothing but drills, and you're just like, oh, should I put this drill in? Should I put that drill? Like, maybe she'll understand it like this. Maybe I need to be a tougher coach. Maybe I need to be whatever it is, right? But I remember that. I do remember that. I don't remember the specifics, but now that you reminded me, I remember that. I remember those moments. It's funny now because we were 100% being rebels about it. And
we're so stubborn too that we're like, whatever, let's do it.
We'll just do it. I think the parents were like happy about it. And I think ultimately it ended up working out. And all of a sudden it's like, it's nothing now. Right. Is that one of the things that as a head coach now you think about? Like you have a staff, so like you have coaches that work under you. Do you let them make those decisions now, or is it hard for you to listen to me because I know what's right?
Yeah, I'm very adamant about letting them grow and letting them learn also on their own. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I always had somebody stepping on my toes, and how annoying it was knowing that I was one of those people that always raised my hand and offered myself for, does anybody need to stay extra time? Can anybody take over this group? Can anybody do this? And I was always like, me. I was always the one that was willing to put a lot of work in. And then anytime that I felt like I had somewhat of success, I felt like somebody was stepping on my toes and saying, oh, well, because of me, or I helped you.
Or you should have done it this way.
Or you should have done this. Like, you never were able to feel that like
you had agency over your groups.
Yeah. So I definitely now, actually going back a little bit on going home and stressing over kids, I feel like now it's harder because working with Sebastian and us being together, it's hard because it happens even on the way home from work, at home, and we're just talking about our gymnast.
Oh my
and we're
God.
like, so we're on our way home and we're like, okay, how's practice? What do we need to do? What are we changing? What are we doing? Then we're in the middle, we're about to go to bed, and we just randomly just start talking about something that we're struggling on at work or something that's going on at work, and then we wake up in the morning and that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So
I wasn't planning on talking about this, but we're gonna dive into this now because we're here now.
Yeah.
It consumes you as a coach because you're getting pressure from everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether you're a head coach or whether just the worker ant, like
yeah.
You're getting it from the kid, you're getting it from the parent, you're getting it from your other coaches. If you work under a head coach, you're getting it from the head coach. You want to do well. You're constantly thinking what ifs. Oh, if only this would have happened, if this would have happened. Can you talk about how is it hard for you to leave work at work? Well, clearly you say that you talk about it all the time, so maybe it's not hard for you.
We definitely don't leave work at work.
Yeah, but like, is that bad? Is that bad for you? Does it affect your personal life? Or better yet, that's the question. How much of your personal life gets affected by your job?
I don't think we see it really as a negative thing because we're both just as involved. And I think that is something that is very helpful and something that I looked forward to for a very long time. And I actually, when I first started working there, I was on my own in the way of like I felt like I didn't have that support, and I begged him and begged him and begged him, and I was like, not only is this gonna help our personal life, like, you know, traveling, because at the time he was going all the way to Cyprus. I was going to Discover. We live forever away from there, so it was a lot of gas money, a lot of driving, you know, and so with babies. So it was a lot of juggling happening. So then I finally convinced him. I was like, please come work with me. And I know he was just as invested as I was. So in that sense, no, I think we're both on the same page. And I think we're both as passionate on doing something. So and making a change and trying to do better for our program because we're both the head coaches of the program. So no, but at the same time, yes. And I think it's just we have the same position as head coaches, but I also have the team director in the sense of I have to take care of all the
housekeeping, back of house.
Yeah.
Enrolling meets, talking to parents.
All of the administrative work, you know, and that's also very consuming. I think I was up last night till like 1 a.m. doing registration forms because I was like, oh crap, I didn't do them all week and I have to do them
because you have
now.
Compulsory season coming up.
Yeah, and so we had
luckily I don't have that.
So I had to register. So I don't coach all the compulsories anymore because the team is growing, so I can't, you know, coach everybody. I have to let other people too. So right now I'm coaching just level 4 and up, but I still have to do all
it's a nice sweet spot there.
Yeah, but I still have to do all the administrative work for that. So sometimes, you know, I'm in bed and I'm still doing stuff on my phone, and like he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm working." So, and he's like, "When are you gonna let go of your phone? I think it's time."
It's crazy because, I mean, you know me. Whenever we were working together, I tried and even to this day, I think I do a pretty good job of leaving work at work. I mean, I'll think about it in the back of my head. I will have it there. Like, I might think about things like, oh, I'm going to try this. And it'll just be like a little Post-it note in my head. But like, I try my 100% best to not let gymnastics consume me outside of work. I mean, it's all right. Yeah. Outside of work when I get home. That is part of the reason why this thing took so long. Because one of the biggest things that I was wrestling with was, it's going to be every day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to think about, like, who am I going to interview next? Who am I going to talk to next? What are we going to talk about? What topics are we going to talk about? Let me, like, tug at that thread. Like, I held off so much. Well, one, I wanted to be the head coach of somewhere.
Yeah.
So that I could have some weight to my name. So that was the first one. But then also I was like, oh, my God, I'm kind of dreading it. Because, like, I already have to go through a season where I have to give up my weekends. And I have to think about results, and I have to think about progress, and I have to think about what are we going to change this week for the next one, or like in advance at the meet, I'm thinking about what we're going to change for the next one, right? So like and that's all in my head, or maybe I'm making notes, I'm talking to my coaches, I'm doing that. Like, I already have that in my head, right? So that's already outside of regular day-to-day 9 to 5 or like the hours, right? But then I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna try to make this happen. And I had started the media company, and I had, COVID was doing good, and it was decent. And I was like, oh my God, if I do this thing. I had the idea for Chalkbox. I had the name.
I don't think you're doing so good with that, because you literally were here for how long? 8 hours.
8 hours.
And now we're talking about gymnastics.
We're talking about gymnastics. But like I remember telling my girlfriend too. I'm like, it's gonna be like all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when we have to film about this. Like I have to prep for it, and then I have to think about it, and I have to, and I'm just like, oh my God, like gymnastics is gonna be like my entire life. And I think part of the reason that I was doing a good job of keeping my personal life and being really sane outside of work was because I was able to, like, I'm just gonna leave that over there, and I'm not gonna worry about it unless I'm like, it's time for me. So, but I know a lot of people, a lot of adults that burn out really, really not quickly, but eventually. It's like a slow burn, and then they like burn out because this thing I think their entire
at some
life.
point both you and I have had a conversation about like doing something different, and just
100%.
And just like, okay, is this what I want to do long term? And it's a hard decision, definitely, and I think I've been in that place, but I don't know what it is that we're still, I mean, we know what it is, but because you kind of sometimes stop and think and be like, okay, is this really what I'm doing? Like, you really invest every single like moment, even at home, thinking about it. You come here, you spend hours and hours at the gym, and then from one day to another, that kid is just like,
if they leave,
I'm
or
doing
I'm
a different
quit.
sport or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing that you can really do. Like, if they don't want to do it, you can't force them to do something they don't want. But then you're kind of like, this is like one of the times where I was like, is this really like, do I want to keep doing this? And I think it's just that we're very passionate about it, honestly. You're very good at having more hobbies than I do, definitely. I feel like my used to be hobbies were to dance, but I feel like I don't do that. And now me, obviously being a parent, is also much harder for you to go and do other things. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I think about now as a mom is, I'm literally spending more time with my athletes than with my own kids. That's crazy.
There's a lot of female coaches that I know that have that same concern of,
it's
like,
that guilt. You get that mom guilt.
And we know people that stopped being head coaches and stopped coaching because they were like, I am not present for my family.
And I don't know how in the world I keep getting myself more involved. I actually just shot myself in the leg not too long ago by making a decision of starting a homeschool program. I was thinking, which I'm starting now in the fall, and I was thinking, okay, great. Like, it was just going to be for my level 4s and up. And I was like, if I have at least half of those girls in the morning, then in the evening we have less kids, so we can alternate, me and Sebastian. We can both spend some time with our kids, just trying to balance out work, home stuff. And then we received a couple more new athletes, and so now we have like half of them in the morning, but now our evening group grew. So now it's kind of like, okay, I'm actually just gonna work 20 extra hours a week. There's no alternating. So it's not a bad thing, and I think it's something that's really hard for me to say, like, I'll just give it to somebody else, because I've had these kids for a while, and it's something that I'm very invested on, so I'm not really ready to give it up. So I guess I'm just working 20 extra hours starting in the fall.
I mean, I had that sentiment also. I had worked at Discover for 12 years. Yeah. And coming here was really difficult because I'm like, oh my God, I have to stop coaching those girls. You know what I mean? Yeah. During COVID, I didn't stop. During when our head coach left, we didn't stop. Whenever there was like any kind of turmoil, I didn't stop. So it was like really hard. So to make it this an adult conversation, because this is, I feel coaches. This part is definitely not for athletes. Maybe parents can be aware of this if you're watching this, but for coaches, I think that especially in gymnastics, you'll relate to everything that we're saying right now. But also, like, that burnout comes in like many different forms because it's all consuming. And I've watched this in passing. There's a lot of female coaches that have talked to me where they're regretful about not being part of their family's life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of male coaches that are heavy smokers, heavy drinkers, because there's like a release that needs to happen, a decompression of some sort. And I've like been actively thinking to myself like, oh my God, I have to try my best not to let this thing consume me, right? But it's part of the reason why this thing exists. I want this to be an educational platform. But is something, if you have ever felt burnout, is there something that you do that helps with that, or have you just not felt that at all yet? And your passion and your determination and your refusal to give up the work that you've done to somebody else in terms of like the kids' futures and stuff, is that enough for you at the current moment?
I would say so. I don't think I'm still there. I don't think I'm in a position where I would say, okay, this is really consuming me and I'm getting bad habits, or like my work ethic has definitely decreased or has gotten much worse, or my attitude in the gym has been somewhat negative towards my coworkers or my athletes or my parents, anybody that comes in contact with me. I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm still very in the sense of my job. I think I still have a lot of energy, and I think I still have a lot of goals that I want to meet. And thankfully I have that support. So I don't think I'm there yet. I just hope that it stays that way, because I really enjoy doing what I do. So
does I have to figure out, I have to make sure that I word this correctly. If you have, forgive me, you were talking about making sure that you don't develop bad habits, make sure that that you have the support system. Do you think that if your partner wasn't doing gymnastics, do you think that it would get in the way of your personal life?
I think so. And I think because we have been there before where he wasn't doing gymnastics, and it was hard. It was really hard because I'm not used to being home all the time. I'm not used to. I've always worked since a very young age, and so I've been very used to get out of the house and keep my mind busy. And I think I've been in the position where I was just home every day, which, don't get me wrong, I love my children, but I still feel like, as a mother, you still have to have your goals and,
Agreed. Yeah, motherhood shouldn't be your sole identity.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I always had that whenever I was home, which was only 2 months. I think I'm being dramatic, but those 2 months were very, very hard for me mentally and emotionally. I think I was a wreck, honestly. And I think I talked to him at some point. I was like, okay, you're coming back home and we're both going back to gymnastics.
Yeah.
And because at the time, mind you, he wasn't working in gymnastics, I would have been very jealous if he was, and I didn't get to do it. And he's always been he's always been I lost my words. He has always supported me on everything. So I'm very grateful for that too. So as long as I say, hey, I want to do this, he's like, let's do it. So
yeah, I remember when you first got pregnant, I remember telling you like, I can't see you not like being up and about and like working and doing this stuff like that. And then you had also mentioned that your mom was like she gave birth to you, and then she was like back to work. Like,
so,
I
like, definitely
you come
didn't
from
have
like
that example.
That's your blood though, right? Like I don't know, is it in you? It's inside you. Like you just like working. You like
the we
things
definitely
that you're
talk
doing.
about that all the time because I grew up with my mom. Obviously, my siblings, my dad passed away when I was very little. So she's always been, like, you have to work. You can't depend on anybody. You never know. Like, even if it's a good relationship, you never know what's going to happen to that person. Like it happened to my mom. So she's like, you always have to work. You always have to do something for yourself. You can't just not do anything. So, and I think that's definitely just my personality as well. I just can't stay still. So I definitely have to, keep myself. But I've also went to esthetician school, and it was just like random. Like, I'm going to do something different. Apparently, right? So apparently, but apparently not, because I was like, I'm going to do something different. Like eventually I'm going to get into this and it's going to be a hobby, but eventually it's going to be a full-time thing, right? No, it's definitely not a full-time thing. Like I am so involved in the gym and in my athletes and everything that's going on that I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. It's just literally just sitting there, and maybe I'll do it once or twice a month, but currently it's just a hobby. It really is. I wanted to make it into a business, and I wanted to.
It's hard.
Yeah. Starting a business is hard.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
And
Forgive me if you're a kid watching this. Like starting a business is hard for the adults.
Yeah, I definitely started it, and I mean, when I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. But it was definitely something that it wasn't as big as my gymnastics passion, obviously, because we're still here. So
I started this business, and it's been a lot more than a side hustle, and it's been very helpful. I've done a lot with it, but still, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard. Okay, we're about to hit the hour mark. So on the last thing about this. So you said you're passionate. You say that you want that you don't feel that burnout yet. Is it because you still have something to prove? Like do you feel, you mentioned being an underdog. I've talked about being we just talked about being underdogs together at the same workplace. I definitely feel like I have stuff to prove. And I think it's because we were at some point in a giant room filled with coaches that have a long resume. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the bad part of ego or not or whatever, but like I feel like I still have stuff to prove about me being in the sport. Do you still feel that way? Is that what kind of keeps you going?
Kind of, but not. I think about it in the sense of I have goals in this sport, in the way of like I want to help my athletes grow and be the best that they can be. I don't feel like it's personal towards me proving anybody else something, because I feel like it's also kind of like I don't know, I think learning and coming down and seeing, like being the underdog and seeing everybody else, and then you're thinking of yourself like, okay, I'm the underdog. But then you kind of start seeing, it's kind of like when you're like a kid and you say, I can't wait to be an adult and like be around adults that are actually being adults, but then you're becoming an adult and you're like, I just live in a world full of kids. You know what I mean? Like everybody still has their own issues and their own problems. And a lot of the things that we saw were things that it was like personal issues with themselves.
100%.
So I feel like I'm really good at stepping out and seeing things from a different perspective and really saying like, it's not really just about me. It's about what I'm doing for other people. Not saying that I don't have goals for myself. I definitely would love to,
But the spotlight is not on you.
No, I don't see it that way.
The spotlight is on the kids.
Yeah. I definitely care a lot about my athletes, and I want them to grow and have better experiences than I did. And I want them to be, the best that they can be. I definitely have goals. I mean, I don't think any coach here would say like, no, I wouldn't want to make any college gymnast, or I wouldn't want to make a national team member or something like that. Obviously, yeah, that's like, how cool, I definitely want to be put in that spot. But I think that's definitely something that, in reality, that's going to be something that's long term. It's a small percentage all the time. And I can't always be focusing on that and on me, because then that's going to make it a bad experience for the people that are around me. So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. I really don't think about like what other people are thinking of me, or like what I'm doing currently and stuff like that. I think I'm just really focused on my own. I think having this opportunity to coach at the gym that I am, and trying to grow the program little by little, and just try to make it not about me and exactly I just want to do what I want and what I've always wanted to do before, and all the things that I saw from my outside perspective and saying like, okay, these are the things that I would never do. You know what I mean? Like make those changes. Yeah. So.
All right. Okay, let's talk about fun stuff. Let's talk about let's talk about things that can potentially be, or maybe not fun stuff, but just not about us. You pick.
Ooh.
Did you see Simone's vault today?
I did.
Did she stuck it?
She stuck it, which was so impressive because you always know how much power she has on that vault.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think she was expecting it.
I don't think so.
I think like
either.
she landed and she was like.
But then I'm like, crap. Like if she sticks it, you know she's got it. She's got it.
It's game over.
But Brazilian
Andrade's coming. She submitted it. She didn't do it at podium. But she submitted it. She's gonna try.
So what is the difficulty? Do you know?
I have no idea.
I think for her,
I guess we can look it up. Before I got flamed on the last episode because like we were talking about the Olympics and I brought up like elite gymnasts and stuff that I like watched peripherally, and like the comments were on fire. Like that's not that girl. That's not what they say. So like before y'all come at me again,
let's
like
fight. You know the level 4 code.
Yeah, like so. Before we get there again, Andrade officially submitted the paperwork or whatever it is.
If I'm not wrong, it said it was 6 point
something
difficulty, right?
I don't know. I didn't even check. I just know it's Yurchenko
don't
triple full.
Don't come at me. I don't know either.
yeah, Yurchenko triple full. The only I'm sure there's been other male gymnasts that have done it, but the one that comes to mind is Kenzo Shirai.
Yeah,
he can twist like nobody's business, or the Japanese men in general. But like.
That's just as impressive.
Yeah, like
that's just as impressive.
Kenzo did a Yurchenko triple full. Was really good at it. Andrade and the videos that Andrade has been posting.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so she posted. There's some videos up. We'll put them in the thing here of her doing the Yurchenko triple full into a resi pit.
Yeah.
Into the pit with like a 4-incher. Mm-hmm. So and like. At least 2 of the clips where she's doing it, you can it's higher than what it would be.
Right.
But she is like about to make the last quarter and she touches it.
Oh.
So it's not she has it, there's no video of her like or like, you know what I mean? Or at least catching it short or anything like that.
Olympic adrenaline is going to get it.
Oh, man, if Andrade does the triple full, they both have Chengs. So at vault finals, they'll both do Chengs.
And
Andrade's Cheng is better than Simone's.
100.
Because it's like, it flies up and she like waits and then she goes for it.
It's just, I feel like they're both great vaulters. And I think
100%.
It's going to be hard. And I think this is probably maybe one of the only people that Simone honestly is probably scared of.
Like, she's like, oh man. Like,
I think she said it. I think I've seen somewhere in an interview where she said like,
it's black girl magic over there, man.
Yeah,
that's black girl magic. Like, and
the power.
The thing that's incredible about that idea, the idea of vault finals, which is really exciting, is that they're 2 completely different body types.
Right.
And that is like,
right.
It's incredible to have to see the juxtaposition in real time. Like Simone is short, kind of like stockier, incredibly like fast twitch muscles, like crazy.
Yeah.
But Andrade is like taller. Leg lines for days.
Yeah. But if we're talking about that too, I think we can also bring up the Mexico girl.
I don't know her vaults.
I don't know either.
That's a shame for us.
I know.
Because we're both Mexican.
Yeah. But I think she's an amazing vaulter. I don't think.
Oh, you mean in terms of body type?
In terms of body type.
She does not look like either of them. Yeah, you're right.
It's completely different, and it wouldn't be exactly what you would say the gymnast body type would be. Which at this point, I feel like there shouldn't be a specific body type because at this point we've seen it all and we've seen greatness in almost
Andrade
every.
was also. I saw a video today. I should show you in a bit. Andrade also put up the. She does like power hurdle on the floor from the corner. She's like power hurdle round off, back handspring whip, double A full out.
Nice.
That's crazy. I'll show it to you. That way we can and we can put it in the.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about just Simone's vault and her vault.
Like, so we were just watching it with my gymnast. That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, that's
insane. I'm gonna have to record this because.
And I really have to see Simone's.
I mean, Simone's gonna win floor because she only has one of those passes.
But Simone also is trying to put up scale on bars.
Yeah, but it's a pirouetting skill, and it's not. I don't know how much it's gonna be worth.
Half, right? So
yeah, she does like
Weiler.
She does Weiler to half to, and then she goes. But now she's gonna do Weiler then 1.5. So she like starts the pirouette and then she does a full.
Yeah, well, either way, I feel like anytime I see any type of like the Chinese are great at doing pirouettes on the bars. They just
one day I'm gonna talk about like the difference in systems, and I'm gonna bring up the Chinese bar swinging versus like the traditional high volume connection bonus for like everything else. Like essentially still like a Russian system because Mustafina is the one that kind of like started putting all these things together. But I just think they're gonna flame me. Maybe it was Rachel Gowie. I'm sorry, Downey, or maybe it was Darwell. I don't know. So.
But going back to vault's
crazy.
I think at this point it's just gonna be
who can hit.
Yeah,
who can show up. It would be great. It would be phenomenal if both Simone does a good vault and Andrade does the triple full.
That'd be crazy.
It would be great. It'd be such a monumental.
Can it at the Olympics? Can both people get first place?
Yeah.
Can it happen?
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure it could happen. There was that one year that there was like a 4-way tie on bars. Not at the Olympics, it's our World Championships, but like.
That'd be amazing.
It would be great.
I feel like they both deserve it, though.
100%. Andrade's been on fire, and she's been like gunning for it. You can tell she's been gunning for it.
My other one is Suni's Lee on bars. You think she's gonna do it? No.
I think Suni's great, and I think she's phenomenal. I think what she's been able to do and like just her natural rhythm on bars is great. But I think Kayla Namor is gonna take it.
Ugh. I'm still rooting for Suni. I think she's amazing too, but
Kayla Namor is just.
But I'm like, if she does it, do you think she will do it at like if for bar finals or for team finals? Where do you think she'll do it?
So the stuff that they showed, the stuff that USAG showed when they were doing training at the gym, not at podium training, but at the gym, Suni actually put together the routine that we've all been kind of waiting for her to do with all the connections y todo. I think the fact that she hasn't been doing that routine, maybe because of endurance, maybe because she's doing a little like, preservation, whatever it is that Jess is making is wanting her to do, or recommending. I think the fact that she hasn't done it publicly, like in front of like a pressure situation, I think that kind of goes against her. At least that's my instinct. Yeah. Because Kayla Namor for the last almost year and a half has been pulling out that routine consistently in high pressure situations. At Europeans, she did it. At World Champions, at World Championships, she did it. At practices, at like nonstop. There's like 4, 5, 6, 7 different videos of her at high pressure meets, and that's a good point. And that routine is.
And I think that's something
she sticks it. She hits it.
Yeah, that's something that we definitely saw at trials was that
her struggle.
Not only hers, but I feel like as a whole, there was a lot of pressure, and we could see, how. They were.
But Kayla Namor 16.
Yeah.
Not that is a big too big of a factor, but like she's 16, you can tell that she is so hungry for that bar final, because undoubtedly she will be the youngest bar finalist probably. Yeah. For sure, because Hesley's not gonna make the bar final, even though she's an incredible bar worker also. But that routine is just incredible.
Yeah, they're both amazing.
That routine is just. I mean, I was looking forward to D'Amato from Italy, Namor, Suni, the Britain girl. I forget her name. Belgium. I think Darwell is there also, and even I don't know how to say her name. Siani Wevers, the girl from the Netherlands. Like her bar has been like. The girl that can do the triple full on the triple turn on beam. Yeah. It's just it's so exciting to watch the bar finals. But I am not that I'm anti-American. I just think Kayla Namor is so astonishing to see.
I think it's not even like, it's not like the supporting the American. I think it's the love for the coaching side. It's like looking at the technique and looking at how things flow so beautifully.
Oh my God. Just appreciating. You know how I was talking about rhythm and grace on beam? It's very rare that happens on bars.
Yeah.
Very rare. Most of the time you're watching people muscle through things, not like really muscle through things, but like you're watching good technique, good form, but like you can tell that like what you're watching is like this is a feat of like strength and like grit and like, you know what I mean? And when she swings bars, it just looks effortless. It looks like she's flowing like that. Like this is water, bro. And like it's super impressive to watch. I think the last time that I saw that, if anything, was probably, I think the closest thing might have been Nastia's bars, because she was just so like long and like, and you know, that ginger that she did like just flew for days. So like maybe it was that, but like Koshin also swung really good bars, and Ashton Locklear had that like super great. So I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to that. Did you see, aside from the Olympics, I don't know if you want to give your predictions, but I think that's so far those are great points. Did you see Simone's documentary?
Yes.
What did you think about it? Is there only 2 episodes, or is there going to be more, or is it
3? I think episodes.
Oh, total?
3, 2, something.
I've only
like
seen
that.
2.
It was short. It was definitely short.
I've only seen 2.
And I don't know if they're going to add anything onto it.
I thought that because they ended right before trials, so I think that I was like, why isn't there a 3rd episode documenting trials? But they're probably editing it. If there is, they're probably editing it currently. And if there's a 4th episode, it's not going to come out till afterwards for like documenting the Olympics. But what did you think? Did you like it?
I liked it. I think it was a good way for them to put out, you know, kind of like their perspective and stuff. I think with the whole just kind of going back and them showing how the old system and the new system and stuff like that, I think it was a good way to put things in place and in people's perspective of, okay, gymnastics is not always, you know, what we thought it was for a very long time. You know, things are changing, things are evolving, and we have to be very open into, you know, as, you know, the newer generation of coaches, of
us,
of seeing that and learning from that and doing our best. And that's what I was talking about, in the sense of, I don't think it's really just about me. It's really us giving them the experience that they want. And I think it really proved how tough it was, and how even if they were at an Olympic podium and stuff like that, it still wasn't enough. It wasn't really filling for them in a positive way, you know?
Yeah, you were talking about us being stubborn at our previous job before with that vault situation, but I think that part of what you were getting at is that we were able to recognize part of that system. That's not to say that we were working under a bad system, that like the head coach had bad intentions or anything like that. I still talk to her. You still talk to her. I still ask for advice sometimes, you know. But there was remnants of that system there, and we could feel it, we could see it.
And it's just really hard to blame somebody, and it's just kind of like, I was talking to Sebastian about this because I saw a post on Instagram about just like generations, and how it was like some cups of coffee, and it was just like passing it on to the next person and passing it on, and it's like, how do you stop that kind of like generational curse? And it's like somebody's just like putting water inside it until it like it flows, right, until it's clear, right? And it's like being that one person. And I was kind of telling him, I want to be that one person of like, you kind of stop that crap, and you're like, okay, you don't have to be that, or you don't have to, you know. And I feel like it's really hard for certain people, and I think it's also a personality thing, but it's just like stopping and realizing that it's not okay, or it wasn't okay, or at moments it didn't feel okay, and then so why would I keep doing that? You know what I mean? And so
but there's that maturity again that I was talking about, like that, and I 100% think you are that person, so especially for your kids. You and I have talked about, maybe not directly like on the nail, but we've like hinted at conversations because we used to work together. We like we spend time as coaches outside of the gym thinking about how to make your kids better, right? So you and I have had conversations where we're saying where we say like, we have to do better as adults, not as like a coach, not as like, but just as adults. Like that system doesn't work, or parts of that system doesn't work, and like this is how I'm gonna do things. They said we were rebellious about certain things, right? Like,
and I think looking at the documentary and then kind of looking back, I think I think there's a lot of times where now we just kind of stop and laugh about it. And it was like, now as adults, we can stop and realize that it wasn't such a big deal. And it's like, okay, now we can kind of see the funny side of it. But as children, it's really hard for them to see that perspective. And I think now, and I think what has helped me has been that I'm a mom too. And so I kind of put myself in my children's shoes, and I'm like, how would it feel if somebody was treating my child like that? Or
that's what Bray said also.
Right. And so then it's hard because you're like, okay, I don't want that. You know, I wouldn't want that for them. So why would I want that for somebody else's kid? That child is also just as important as mine, you know? So
Correct.
It's just like stopping and realizing that it's not just for a gold medal, or it's not just, it's everything that comes with it. Because at the end of the day, we're probably going to put that gold medal in a closet somewhere, you know?
I don't even remember how many. I can't. I can't for the life of me. I remember how many bar champions I've had.
Right.
I can't.
And I feel like
I've had some, but I just
feel like
can't.
that's something that like some people have. I think I've like when I'm planning my banquets and stuff, I always look back at like just how other people have done things, and it's like, because you know I'm kind of newer to the head coach stuff, so. When I came to this gym, I kind of brought back after COVID, a lot of things kind of got left behind. So I started trying to pick up those things. And so it's like, okay, kind of looking back, and I was like, should I be writing down like, and like saying like, we've got this many gold medals and these many silver medals and these many like, you know, and then I'm like, well,
sure,
now it's too late because the banquet's tomorrow, but to like, it's just kind of giving the kids that moment and congratulating for whatever. And I am saying like their scores and whatever, and we're bringing up those things, but it's like I don't think I've ever sat down and like really wrote down like I've had these many beam champions or floor champions or whatever. I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, this is not to say that those gold medals don't matter.
Right.
They matter to the kid.
Right.
They matter to the athlete. But the point that I think we're making, to be 100% clear and distinct, like our joy is not rooted in how many medals you have.
Right.
Because again, I can't remember them. I can't remember how many. But what I can remember is like the smile on the kid's face. Yeah. What I can remember is like how hard they worked for that. What I can remember is that this kid was struggling so hard on this skill, had a mental block, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then all of a sudden like achieved it. And like, even if they didn't get first place, they got a 9-1. And it was just like, I remember those things more so than I remember like this shining glory of a moment of like, oh my God, I'm the champion of the world. Like I don't.
And I think this is something that I've also kind of picked up from you specifically. And I think it's something that we've been very adamant about coaching together before, has been that we have also been very, very good at celebrating our kids for those small achievements, you know, and saying like, okay, it wasn't a gold medal, it was a 3rd place medal, or it was a 5th place medal, but did you see how much it took us to get there? You know what I mean? Like it went from being this to being that, you know, the process is really recognizing the process and letting the kids know that we were aware of everything. And even if at the end of the day, it didn't put her at the gold medal, you know, at the 1st place podium, it was still something that was really big individually for her. And that
100%.
was way more important than the medal at the end of the day.
100%. I had 2 kids in level 9 this year. And when we started the season, one of them asked me like point blank, do you think I'm going to make it to Westerns? And I was like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And I didn't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
I didn't know how to
like. You want
to
be honest, but at the same time, it's like you also don't want to.
I don't want to like get them filled with hope. Right. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like just based on what we're dealing with right now, it's going to be very hard. I don't want to set you up for disappointment. And then both of them made it to Westerns.
Nice.
And I was like, oh God. But like, and it's not like they did like phenomenal at Westerns or anything, but
it's still a big
it was
achievement.
such a big deal because of where we had started, right? And I had started here at the gym in January, so like it was just it was in the middle of the season that we were making this progress, which is even more of a monumental growth, right? Because like nobody grows during season. Yeah. People clean up during season. Yeah. So it was whatever, right? We can get to that another day. But I was so proud of them because of what you're saying, because of like it really didn't matter at that point. Once they qualified, it was like whatever happens is not really that important. Because we have achieved so much in like such a small amount of time that like that alone is the win. That alone is the W.
Yeah.
I saw the documentary. I saw the 2 episodes leading up to trials, I think is what it was. And then I had a lot of thoughts. The first one that's coming to mind right now, because you're a big theme for us is coach maturity, right? There was a moment where in the documentary, I think it was the second episode, or maybe, no, it's the first one. It's the first episode for sure. 2021 Tokyo.
Yeah.
Twisties.
Yeah.
Simone starts to freak out, and they're showing like they do a great job of going like in the real time, talking about what she was feeling or anything, right? And then there was a moment where Laurent is at his house, and they're talking, and they're cutting up excerpts and stuff, and Laurent says, he says something to the effect of, usually when things like that happen, it has nothing to do with gymnastics.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah.
And I was like, coach maturity.
Yeah.
For him to realize, or to at least have an inkling of like, she's getting the twisties and she's suffering in this moment. It's a high pressure moment. He knows the world's eyes are looking at this girl. And I remember writing a kind of like a small little segment, like a small blurb about the 2021 Olympics, and I remember saying that I remember praising Laurent and Cecile because they allowed her to drop out, which before, like, Marta would have never, like, Marta would have never thought, like, Marta would have looked at her with this look like, what is happening, right? And I never knew the Carolis, nor was I around them or anything like that. So it's not like love lost on my end. But like I remember, I know for a fact that like that look would have been so deep, piercing. The Carrie Strug moment. Yeah. It would have been the Carrie Strug moment.
And it's so sad. It's so sad because at that point the kid knows, like, the many times that you feel like the fact that these kids did something on a fractured foot or on like any type of injury, overall, like
crazy,
like the pressure of doing it because of fear, not really because anything else, really. Like, it's like, if I don't do this, like, I have no option. Like, and I'm put on a spot where I'm literally up here on the podium and everybody's watching, and it's like, do it for your country. You know what I mean? It's like, but I have a broken foot, you know?
That's wild. I remember watching that, and I remember like the praise that I had given him for 2021 for letting her opt out of the all around or qualification or whenever it was.
Yeah.
I remember praising him and Cecile so much, and then hearing him say like, when those things happen, it has nothing to do with gymnastics. I'm like, the level of maturity that you have to have as a coach to understand that in that moment, what he probably wanted was an Olympic champion. Yeah. As a coach, as a professional, to add to his resume, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And for him to say, like, for him to understand what's happening right now out there, you may think that it has to do with the sport, but it actually has nothing to do with the sport.
Yeah, and I think
her brain is fractured.
I think going back to it, I think now I have some more answers to your question from way when we started this earlier, was about beam. And I feel like that is what's me working on beam for such a long time, and only beam. I felt like beam itself is a mental game, and I think I've had to stop and do a lot of mental work to be able to get my athletes to do certain things on the beam and make them look good and stuff like that. But I feel like it's the mental side of it, and stopping and not only think about their physical capabilities, but also thinking about their mental, because this sport is, I feel like, more mental than physical at this point. You know what I mean? Like, if
especially when you get to 9 and 10.
Yeah, I have so many girls. Like, 50, I have so many girls
mental.
That are very capable, and I think this is a struggle that I've came on now being a head coach. And it's like I'm one of the people that are like, I'm always open to suggestions, and I'm always asking people because I feel like I don't know it all, you know, and I want to learn from other people too and other people's experiences.
Right.
So it's like, I think one of the biggest struggles that I've had is how do I deal with all of the mental side of it? You know what I mean? Like, it's really tough. It really is really tough. But then it's also, like you say, having that maturity of accepting that it's not, okay, your kid is capable of doing it. She has the strength or the flexibility to do the skill. But if it's not up here, it ain't happening. So...
I was really impressed when he said that.
Yeah.
It was really poignant. It was really powerful for me to hear that, because I think I probably would have arrived at an answer like that also if I had an athlete that like that. Like,
Yeah.
I've had athletes with mental blocks before, and I have athletes right now that struggle with trying to get themselves mentally ready for competition and things like that. But that is a different degree of, that's exponentially larger. The Olympics,
Yeah.
the world's the best gymnast that's ever lived.
Yeah.
His name attached to that, like for him to realize in that moment,
And for Simone, even worse, for just being the person that she is and being the athlete that she is and having so much behind her, like all the medal and like she is already amazing, and then having all that pressure of like you cannot fail because you're amazing all the time.
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
you do, then
Yeah.
you know it's sad. You know?
I was so impressed with him.
You start kind of like losing thought that they're human. You know what I
Correct.
mean? And you just
you start to
always
idolize them.
Yeah.
You start to like, again, I put out a thing today about romanticizing sports, but like you start to put these people in this like god hero status, and like they really shouldn't. They're just people. So
I think it's something that happened to like Suni when she went to college, you know, which was sad because, you know, we all look up for that college experience.
Correct.
And so it's kind of like, man.
Yeah, I just want to double down on that. Like Laurent, I don't know if he would ever watch this, but like Laurent, it's so impressive and mature to be able to it's just an incredibly impressive thing to understand. Like, this has nothing to do with gymnastics.
Yeah.
Whatever's happening inside her head right now, it has nothing to do with gymnastics. It has nothing to do with muscle memory. It has nothing to do with focus. It has nothing to do with like nothing. It has to do, something's going on in the brain, in the muscle, and it probably has absolutely nothing to do with gymnastics. So the segue that they had in the documentary, transitioning from that to Nasser, I think was like oh, here's that, like that leap that people, like, you never know what's going on in somebody's mind. So I thought it was incredibly impressive. I'm incredibly empathetic to Simone and incredibly impressed by Laurent. If should he ever be across from me, I think I'd have a lot of like technical questions about him in terms of like the sport and like the nooks and crannies of like how to coach certain things or like what, but you know what I mean? Like just some real nerdy gymnastics coach shit. But now I also have a lot of like psychology questions that I think he might have the answers to in terms of like how to deal with certain athletes and how to build a strong mind.
The experience he has obviously at such large, big competitions, you know.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. The other thing, let me go back to my note because I wrote a lot of this stuff down. The other thing that is a combination to the support of coaches. The other moment that really struck me in the documentary, which this is an actual PSA for people now. I'm gonna go into my soapbox. Whenever she decided to drop out, and Nellie's on the phone with her mom's on the phone with her, and you get the thing, and Nellie's saying like, "You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have to do it." Yeah. The best for me, I'm like the best moment, probably even more so than Laurent, because.
Parents' pressure.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
The amount of pressure that can come from a parent.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God! Like
and it sometimes can be so defeating, not only for the athlete but for the coach as well, because it's like, you know, because you're the one that works hand in hand with the kids' progress and the progression from the beginning all the way to where they are now. And it's like, it can all just go downhill by one comment that is said by the parent.
100%. If I could, I'm going to ask Nelly to be on this so that I can tell her, like, it's the quintessential thing to say.
Yeah.
To a gymnast, to an athlete that's competing. And even at the highest level, for the parent, the first thing to come out of her mouth is, "You don't have to do it."
Right.
Like
I'm with you. I'm supporting you.
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas there's a lot of parents, and we've coached top parents before, so like there's a lot of parents that are like, "No, my kid's talented. She has to do it."
Yeah.
And
a lot of people talk about like, dance moms, but like,
oh my God.
With gymnastics moms,
it's
like,
crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is, again, it's not an indictment. I'm just saying, like, it is a beautiful moment as a parent, from one parent to another, watching Nelly having to tell Simone, "You don't have to do this. Get off that stage if you do not feel safe." it was a beautiful,
It's the
beautiful
smartest
moment.
thing to do as
100%.
well. It's like the love for your child at the end of the day, because she's not
100%.
doing
and
easy
understanding
things.
that like Simone probably also felt incredible support. So
Right.
Simone also felt like home was a safe space,
Yeah.
which is what home should be. This is what parents should be, is a safe space. They shouldn't be getting pressure from parents. I always tell parents, like, if you want me to, as a coach, to tell you what the best thing that you can say after a meet,
Yeah.
good performance, bad performance, mediocre performance, horrible performance, catastrophic
Anything, yeah.
performance, like, doesn't matter what the performance was. The best thing that you can say as a parent is, I love watching you do what you love to do.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's go get ice cream. That's it.
Yeah.
No, next time you're going to point your toes, right? It's okay. Next time she's going to do better, right? Like, oh, even like if the kid is right next to you and you're talking to another adult, like, oh, we went to a meet and like, we were doing good. We had a little bit of hiccups, but like next time you're going to do better, right? Like none of that.
Those little comments
None of that.
are like-
no, don't, none of that. None of that. Because you think that you're being supportive, but all the kid is internalizing is like, I have to do this for my mom now.
Yeah. Or
I have
like
to
a
do
lot
this
of
for
the
my dad
times
now.
what I hear is like, oh, but my mom's going to be mad at me, or
Oh,
my dad's
God.
going to be mad at me. And I'm like,
Insane.
they don't matter. And I think it sounds horrible. And I feel like if any of my parents see this, like what your parents said doesn't matter. But it's like, it's not about them. It's not about me. It's like, if I can, you know what I mean? Like if I'm working hand in hand and I can stop and say, it's not about me either. You know what I mean? It's like, it's about you and your confidence in this and your success. And it's all about you, not about anybody else, So yeah, I've always said, like, I've always put it like this way. It's like, this is the athlete, this is the parent, and this is the coach. And if one's pushing and the other one's not, we're just going to be sitting in a circle. You know what I mean? Like, we're
Yeah.
just going to literally be going here. We're not going to go anywhere. We both have to be on the same page, and we got to be
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
I usually do it in a triangle. Like each side is and without one of the sides. Like we're just
Right, collapsing.
collapsing. But that's a good visual. Yeah, I think the supportive parent, that moment of Nelly. And Nelly's such a sweet person. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've met her. I'm sure you've been around her because we go to like the bios meet or whatever.
Yeah,
She's just
she
like
is
so
sweet.
nondescript. She's such a sweet person. But like it was a beautiful moment to see. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Because it would have been even worse. Yeah, I think it would have been even worse if you would have gotten footage of a parent being like, it's okay, just try again. Or like, you know what I mean? And instead of like,
Like, why?
yeah,
like
or
trying to
or
like get
what's
them to
wrong?
answer
Yeah,
questions.
like, oh my God. So I think that was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moment. The third thing that came out of it for me, and I'm not sure that Simone actually made this point, but I've recognized this point when it comes to people that are phenomenal at what they do. And I'm not sure that if you saw the last episode that I did with Bree, we had a brief conversation about the difference between good and great, and how the difference is sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice for being the best is loneliness.
Yeah.
And there was a moment around the same segment of like the Twisties and Simone and 2021 and everything, where the big theme there was she had a support system. Obviously,
Right.
a parent, Nelly, was a good support system to lean back on and feel safe and things
And
like
her
that.
husband,
And her
yeah.
husband, and like, which was a great moment to see. And, but like from as an athlete, as being the best at something, you were at the peak, you're at the top of the mountain. There is absolutely no one that would understand what she's going through.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, the amount of loneliness.
Yeah, and I think
That,
it's like it's like reading where she's like reading all the comments, like people's comments.
Oh my God,
and
the
then,
isolation that she
but
must
like
have felt.
I feel like Simone is really good at that, and it's like stopping and going back to being that person that can stop bad generations. And I think she has been one of the people, mainly for USA Gymnastics, who has been able to stop and because of the position that she is, and all her greatness behind it, she has that ability to kind of be like, no, we're not doing that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is.
She does have a good balance. She has a good balance of being like braggadocio and like owning her greatness.
Yeah.
But then also saying like, but I'm also just a person.
Right. And
You
so
know?
like when she's reading those messages, and I think there was one that I can clearly remember where she's like, but like you're judging me because I have the twisties. Like I can literally fall and be paralyzed. Like I'm doing something that's really difficult, and you're sitting here just writing a comment not knowing how it can affect others, but you can't do a cartwheel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like
It's a good perspective.
She's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's dangerous. It's something dangerous. And if she can stop and say, I am not mentally well to do this right now, and this could potentially hurt me or hurt others or whatever, like the best that I can do right now is stop. That takes a lot for those athletes who have worked and worked and worked years and years to try to get to that moment. And it was like, you know, the Carrie situation where it was like
The Carrie
I
Struck
have to
situation
do
is very
it.
poignant. I think
and it's sad. I think we stop, and now that we realize, it's like before everybody used to see it as, oh my God, she you know, she did it for her country.
She was on cereal
Yeah.
boxes. Like there's like, I think the Olympics have like montages with like Bella carrying Carrie with like a bouquet of flowers, and she's like, and it's like they put her as this like poster child for like the things that you'll do for your country and this and that.
Yeah.
And I look back at that and I'm like,
Yeah, and now that I watched
I'm like,
the documentary and I was sitting
why would you
there,
let that girl vault on a
Yeah.
broken ankle?
it's sad.
You're,
It's so
it's,
sad.
I've watched that clip back and it just doesn't hit the same. Like I think at some point they like added music and it looks all like riveting and like, oh my God, like she persevered. And I
Yeah.
look at that clip and I'm like, that is horrible.
That's sad. It's really
that is
sad.
so sad that girl was walking back from the moment that she lands and she falls, and like the look on her face when she's not even looking at it, she's looking for Bella. And she's looking for Bella to tell her like, get off, it's
Yeah.
done. But she knows in her head that Bella's gonna be like, do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I can see it in her face. I can see it in her face. She's like walking back and like starting to like limp, and I'm like, this is not okay. This moment is horrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think ultimately what it comes down to is that like the audience wants everything from their greatest sports people, from their greatest athletes. The audience wants it all. And I think it's because of the like living vicariously through them. Like, you are not a person. You are here to make me feel what I'm never going to be able to actually feel, because I'm going to live through you. They do it to LeBron James and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
They do it to Tiger Woods. They do it to like all these people that are like, you're great, so you have to keep being great, or else I'm going to throw everything at you, because that's your job,
Yeah.
is to be phenomenal. And I just think as an audience, it is the most distasteful thing that you can do when admiring greatness is assume that they owe you anything.
Yeah.
Assuming that that because you get to turn on the TV and eat some wings while you're watching this thing, that you get to demand anything from any of those people. I think
Yeah.
that is the biggest distasteful thing
disgusting.
as an audience member that you want. You know what I mean? It's not every audience member, but I think for the most part, like it's a feeling that people get, right? And it's just it's rough.
Yeah.
What's our time? Okay, cool. We're almost done. I got one last thing.
Okay.
We're gonna end with this. We could go on forever because you know,
Okay.
but I will gladly sit down and we'll talk again if you'd like. I'm gonna be in Houston plenty. So, if you had to change one thing about gymnastics in the United States, what would it be? And we'll end with this question. It might go for a while, but I have an answer. Do you have an answer?
I don't know. I feel like this is kind of like the point that we were just talking
For
about.
women's, for men's in general. I mean, this channel is primarily talking about women's gymnastics, but
I feel like
if you
as a
have-
whole, I love the sport, obviously. And there's still some kind of balance that there needs to be, because it's not an easy sport, especially nowadays. It's not an easy sport. And I think we could see it kind of like Olympics back in the day and Olympics now. Like, we're obviously doing some really high and risky things. And there has to be some type of discipline and some type of, you know, effort put behind it and
Healthy
the work,
expectations.
right? And so there's still certain things that are there that you're like, okay, some things still have to continue, because it's not it's not something that's super easy. Like there has to be
a level of expectation that is like a high rigor.
Yeah, but I think definitely, I think the changes that are currently happening to a lot of the things are good changes. I see them as positive things. And I think it's a point that you hit at your last conversation with her was that like Michaela's comments about like, yeah. So it was like, I think the changes are happening currently are not bad changes. I think they're good changes. I think as a whole, I think people are starting to see kind of the reality of things, and I hope that people are able to stop themselves if they are continuing something like they were in as athletes, or they were in as working with other people in the same system, being able to stop and try to remember that it's not about you, and it's not about the parents, it's not about anybody but the athletes and the athlete experience, So I think it is happening, and I'm glad it's happening in a way.
You think we're heading towards a good direction?
Yeah, I think we're heading towards a good direction. I don't think it's going to happen 100%. I feel like there's always going to be something, someone out there that still keeps kind of breaking the rules and doing whatever they want at the end of the day, as long as there is support for them, and then the parents know, the gymnasts know, the coaches know. I think we're moving on a good direction. So I think it's happening. Is there something that you have that's different?
Oh yeah. My answer is very different. I think I have a lot of critique for our sport because I love our sport.
Yeah. I think this is a good conversation because I think I came from that system as an athlete, and I think it's like something that I always thought I wanted different. And so I think from your outsider perspective as well, from coming into the sport later on and kind of learning it, I think this is a good point, that you're, what is it?
For me, and this is absent gymnastics a little bit, like not like in the coach, because I have a lot of critique for the sport. I love the sport a lot. I have a lot of things that I wish things would be different. I have a lot of things that I think USA Gymnastics and or coaches should be a lot more transparent about. So I have a lot. I could have a laundry list of things. I talk to my parents about these kinds of things constantly whenever I have meetings with them. But before all of that, the thing that I would change, and I'm not sure how I would, but the thing that I would change is I do not like that the barrier of entry for gymnastics is a financial one.
Okay.
I think that there is a lot of lower income kids out there.
Yeah, 100%.
That would be great at this sport. Yeah. That would be phenomenal at this sport. And unfortunately, they will never get to achieve any of that success, and they might not even be aware that they love this sport because of the fact that in order to do gymnastics, it is very expensive.
Yeah.
And it pays my salary, so I have to be a little bit realistic about it.
Yeah.
But me coming from a low income scenario as a kid, coming from a very specific way of life and upbringing that I had to overcome, I remember kids in my neighborhood. I remember when I go back to Mexico, I think about like the kids that like my parents grew up in the neighborhoods that they grew up in and things like that. And I think to myself, like, I actually think some of these kids would be great at this sport, and they'd never know it.
Yeah, just the opportunities.
They would never know it because the barrier of entry for this sport in terms of finance, in terms of a financial barrier, is so large that and there's some success stories. I remember there was like a male gymnast a while back. I think Orozco was his name, Orozco. I think he was like this. I think he was like a Cuban American.
Yeah,
I think he was like he was like I don't know if he was adopted or anything like that. Like Simone's clearly a success story, and like or like a scholarship that he was given or some sort of, I forgot what it was. I'm sure there are success stories out there, but in general, like community parks have basketball programs, soccer programs, baseball programs, and I'm not even sure that a gymnastics program at a community park would eventually lead to the kind of gymnast, because I know how hard it is to do this sport and how
Right.
early you have to start and like all that jazz, because even low income parents wouldn't be able to be like, I can't take my kid to gymnast 4 hours a day. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I've got 2 jobs,
Which
and
is
I've got,
crazy because if you think about it, in the United States, it sounds crazy, but now, like with Sebastian in
Colombia, yeah, it's
him
different.
being Colombian, it's a whole different system because a lot of those athletes who end up being on the national team and elite level gymnasts and being able to represent their country and in different international competitions, most of those kids are those low income kids, and those are the ones that get dragged out of the streets or wherever they are, whatever they're doing, to be giving that opportunity. So it's really kind of just maybe switching up that system of
just
giving
jarring.
them.
Yeah, I think if I had to change something, I would change that.
Yeah.
I think of like the untapped talent that there is. Like think about the young girls. Think about how hard it is, especially because this is women's gymnastics. Like, think about how hard it is as a young girl, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, 12 years old, 14 years old, early teenagers. Think about how hard it would be to like learn discipline, to learn how to like achieve really difficult goals through like grit and hard work. Like, think about how hard it is as a low income kid, I think I would change that. If I had a magic wand and I could just write a blank check, I wouldn't make it easier. I wouldn't make it more expensive. I wouldn't make like coaches' salaries higher. Like, like that'd all be nice. But I think ultimately I would be, I think that there's an untapped market and a lot of kids that would really love to do this that don't get a chance to because of their economic status, their zip code.
Yeah.
And
I think even for like a middle class family, it's hard. Yeah, definitely.
So I would change that. I think that
I know I'm actually like on my way here yesterday, just like putting together my optional season because I obviously want to get that out for my parents as fast as possible, just because I know like when you throw things at people, it's
I just put mine out too.
Yeah, it's hard, and I'm on my way here to online like, what are good fundraisers? Like, I'm over here trying to help them out as much too, because I kind of put myself in that parent shoe, and I'm like, it's hard, and I obviously want my kids to participate, and I want them all to have the same experience, and just kind of like also supporting the parents as well. So yeah, I mean, when I tell you we're working 24/7, even if it's thinking about the kids, thinking about the gym, the equipment, the parents, the competitions, anything that we can do to help them, it's
if this channel ever becomes something so substantive where like there's enough eyes, I think that one of the things that I would probably like put a lot of my brain power into is like a charity of some sort or something.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, because I think about that all the time, and only because like
and feeling sometimes so helpless that like you get pulled into the office to have a meeting with somebody, and it's like, we just can't do this anymore. It's so expensive. Or we got put in a situation where we had to, use our money in a different way, and we just can't afford this anymore. And it's like just sitting there and not being able to do anything for that child, because you're like, oh my God, all the work that we put in and all that she has grown, and, like the success, that she was going to have. And then you're like, but I can't do anything about it. It's definitely tough.
Yeah. I just think about myself. No, I don't think I would have been good at this sport, but I think I would have been good at this sport if I had a different personality. But I think when I was young, I was just so rebellious that I wouldn't have wanted to be here. But I think about what I would have felt like knowing that I was in love with something that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I think I have felt that way whenever I first got my dancing contracts and I couldn't travel overseas, and like it was such a horrible feeling that I think back like, man, imagine if a kid like realizes like, bro, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And like you can't. Mom and dad's like, I can't.
Yeah. Do you ever stop and like talk to your kids? And like, I feel like because we grew up in like, we don't come from like rich families and stuff. I do this all the time with my kids where I'm like, hey, this ain't cheap. Like, don't come here and waste time. Like, your parents are paying a lot of money for you to be doing this. Like, make it worthwhile. And again, if this is something that you guys don't want to do, say so. Like, we're not trying to force you guys to do something. Like, if you really aren't enjoying it, say so. Like, I'll support you. If at the end of the day tomorrow you want to go and dance or do basketball or whatever, hey, I'll come watch you, whatever, you know. But like, you know, being on the parent side as well and saying, hey, like, don't come here and waste your parents' time, or like, hey, I want to do private lessons. No, like, I'm not making your parents pay money that if you're not really using the time efficiently, you know. So
I think we agree.
Yeah,
for sure. I think we're gonna have we have a lot more things to talk. I have so many things to talk about. I have like a laundry list of things that I want to talk about on this channel.
I just had a parent meeting the other day, and then I was like, literally like 2 days later, I'm like, I could have talked about this and talked about this and talked about this. There's so many things that we can talk about.
Yeah. So I don't think this is gonna be. Hopefully, this is not gonna be our last conversations. You know, if I'm ever in Houston, we have some time, I can set up at your gym. So we're definitely gonna have to put this on pause, and we're definitely have to get the conversation back up and going. You know, again, multiple times. But I think this was great. Yeah, I liked it. It was fun.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I was definitely nervous, but it was.
Were you?
I
told you, like, once the conversation starts, everything's good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Alrighty, so do a shameless plug. Where can they find? Where can people find you? Do you have a coaching Instagram?
I don't have a coaching Instagram, but I should.
Does your gym have an Instagram?
Yeah, you guys can follow my team girls. Let me see. Let me make sure I don't tell you the wrong thing. We do have a Instagram.
If you're in Pearland, you can tell them what your gym is, and if you want some people to try out your program.
Yeah, so follow us at rpga.girls.team. And that's where we're kind of posting our kiddos and all of our little activities that we're doing.
I'm gonna follow you right now on Chalkbox Talk. So if you guys need to look for it, you guys can go to the people.
Yeah, follow us definitely.
What is it again?
RPGA.
.girls. Oh, .girls.team. I got it. So so you if you follow us at Chalkbox Talk, you could just go to our followers, and then we don't follow a lot of people, so one of the followers is Reflex.
Perfect. Thank you.
Reflex Gymnastics Academy, Pearland, Texas.
Pearland, Texas. Yes,
cool.
sir.
Alrighty. Well, that's another episode of Chalkbox Talk, episode 2. We're here with Marissa Mendoza. Thank you guys. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of the things. Share it. Tell all your friends. Put it on Facebook. Put it on YouTube. Like, comment, whatever it is that makes your heart happy. We're gonna keep bringing you some more episodes. I can't wait to have some more conversations. We really appreciate everything. Thank you guys so much in advance. Until next time. Bye.